Hey guys, and welcome to our full review of Life is Strange, the first one. So just normal Life is Strange. So if you haven't been to our reviews before, then we do these in chapters. So you can go to the YouTube chapter feature and select the part that you want to go to, or you can watch the entire thing, whatever you choose. With that being said, we're gonna get right into the game company / creator. The game company / creator is Square Enix. They have made a lot of games. They're I would say they're a AAA company probably. But they made all Life is Strange games, and they've made like other games. I think they've made like the Twilight game or something. But
they made the Kingdom Hearts games.
Oh yeah, Kingdom Hearts. I mean, my buddy John has something to say about that, but I don't, because he plays those games. I don't. So like they're really known though for Kingdom Hearts, I guess, but also Life is Strange. Those are the two things they're known for. Everything else, like, no offense to them, but they're not really well known for that. And we're gonna get into the actual game, but in terms of the company, I think they're pretty decent. I think basically what you used to be able to do is you had to buy the individual chapters. Like you had to buy chapter 1 was free, if I recall. Then chapters 2, 3, 4, and 5 you had to buy separately because they came out separately. But as soon as they all came out, like as soon as chapter 5 came out, you had a bundle where you saved about like 20% or so if you just bought the bundle instead of buying them all individually, which I thought was very smart. It showed me that they didn't just care about the money, because they could have left it as, oh, you have to buy each episode individually. So yeah, and I do know Kingdom Hearts has a lot of DLC stuff, so they're very DLC oriented when it comes to that kind of stuff. With Life is Strange, they're not though, as far as I'm aware. Besides, I think Before the Storm, which we didn't play because I had played it myself, and I personally didn't like it that much, so I didn't bother with putting it on the channel. But besides that one, there's not really been any DLC content, and as far as I'm aware, Life is Strange 2 doesn't either. So yeah, they're a decent company that's doing pretty good work. We've played the first one. We're playing through the second one right now. I mean, I don't know when this comes out, but I'm assuming we're still playing through it. And then we're going to be playing the third one at some point soon. So the first one was really good. The second one's good so far. And we'll see what the third one is. So they're a pretty good company. But moving on to what is done well. So I'm going to get more into the music later, but the music really drives this game because obviously it's mostly a movie. Like Life is Strange is like, there's obviously some gameplay parts. There's a decent amount of gameplay parts. It's not like Telltale where there's like, that one's pretty much just a movie. But it's definitely more in the sense there's a lot of cutscenes and a lot of times where you're not doing anything. And during those moments, there's got to be good music. Otherwise, you're not going to feel like you're watching a movie, right? And the music in this game really brought it home. And there's a lot of good music tracks. The iconic one, the main theme is really catchy and really good. And it's kind of somber almost, because they play it on somber scenes, so it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so that's done well. The introduction of the power that Max has is pretty well done. She sees someone get shot, she sees her friend get shot, and although she doesn't know it's her friend at the time, but either way, she sees someone get shot, and that initiates a time power, which obviously initially she's confused, but it teaches the player like, oh, that's what's happening. And then later down the line, I think it was chapter 5, where like time gets really screwed up. Like you're going through all these different time things. I remember specifically you wake up in you actually restart the game like multiple times. Like they reintroduce like the Jefferson scene where like he's talking about the first pictures or whatever the lecture was there, but you go back to that section like many times, and one of the times, like as soon as you get up from the desk, like everyone's gone, and when you try to leave, Mr. Jefferson's back there just talking, like, hey, I wanted to talk to you. I'm like, where the did you come from? But that's because time is like so messed up that like all this like timelines are merging, and like that was really sick. There's a lot of good dialogue in the game. There's like obviously it's like exaggerated teenage talk, but there's a lot of good dialogue in the game. A lot of good characters. We're going to get into the story and characters a bit more later. But that's really well done, I think. The choices are really well done, because in this game your choices actually matter, because I think you get to the ending sort of the same, but the people you kill, the people that are alive, and the situation that you're in ultimately change depending on your actions. And if you remember to our series, Zach and Isabel were actually the ones making the decision, because I already played the game, so it didn't make sense for me to try and do that again. They basically did a genocide run. Pretty much killed absolutely everybody. They killed Kate, Frank, I'm sure someone else. So yeah, they killed a lot of people. Well, anyway. Yeah, and also I think the Kate scene specifically was really well done. If you're not a failure and kill them.
Wow. Okay.
So just saying. But
we were like right there too.
You were so close. That's how sad it was.
Proverb.
That's how sad it was. But anyway, so yeah, that scene is really well done and really powerful too. Because once you get up there, you're shown that you don't have powers to fix it. Which up to that point you did. If you didn't like the decision you made, you get to rewind and change it basically. But that was the first iteration where your powers didn't work and you couldn't go back and fix it. Which I found was a very powerful message because it's like, yeah, you can't screw up, and if you screw up, you know what happens, right? And watching people play the game, like you can see this tenseness in their eyes, and like you can see that that they're super stressed about how this is gonna go. And the way you save Kate is by remembering what she likes, actually listening to her, sort of snooping. I want to call it snooping because she allows you in the room, but like sort of looking around the room for clues and stuff like that. And like all that stuff. Once you get all the clues, you have to remember them, and then that scene happens, and then using your knowledge of what she said to you and what you looked around the room in, you can use that knowledge to then save her. So I think that entire scene was really well done, I would say. The Mark Jefferson being the villain the entire time was very, like, when I first played it, I was shocked. I'm like, I can't believe this man, because he seemed like one of the last people. I mean, in Chapter 4 specifically, he became a little bit more suspicious. But even then, it didn't warrant enough suspicion to be like, wait a minute, you're the murderer? Yeah, because everyone thought, like, Nathan was the main guy. I mean, he sort of was in a sense, but he wasn't. He was being manipulated behind the scenes. But everyone still thought that he was the bad guy, when really Mark Jefferson was actually the one. So that was crazy. I forgot how these two reacted, but I'm pretty sure they were like, woo!
Yeah, I was like, what?
But yeah, that was really well done, because a lot of games don't do that correctly, where there's a secret villain, and they don't sort of do it well in terms of hiding it. So it's like, that's suspicious, dude. And then you're like, oh, I can't believe it was him. Like, when there's all this suspicion on him. Mark Jefferson, like I said, up until the end of Chapter 4, he was not really that suspicious. And he was helpful, he was nice, like, all these traits that made it so that he didn't seem like he was the villain the entire time.
Yeah.
So, that was well done, for sure. And this is a big game, so don't expect this to be 15 to 20 minutes. It's probably going to go over. Because we usually try and stick to 15 to 20 for these reviews, because if I'm watching a review of someone reviewing a game, I don't want to sit there for like an hour like the Undertale and FNAF ones we did, and be like, alright, when's it gonna end? I just want to hear stuff. But yeah, so I think that was really well done. A lot of the characters, like I said, we're gonna get into more so later, but a lot of the characters either made you really angry at them, which means that you're invested in the game, though. Because when you're angry at a character in the game, or you're happy for a character in the game, you're invested in it. And so they really did that well. And I'm sure there's more I could talk about, but a lot of the stuff is done pretty well, I would say. My personal opinion. But moving on to what could be improved. I want to say there was a couple bugs that we had encountered. Even to this day when we played it, there was still a good amount of bugs and stuff, if I recall. But in terms of that, I mean, there's a lot of choices that didn't seem to matter too much. Like, there's a couple choices like especially Chapter 3. A lot of Chapter 3's choices didn't make a lot of sense. Because if you could steal the money from the prince for the handicapped fund, which probably wasn't even a handicapped fund in the first place. We didn't in the episode, but I apparently if you do, not really much happens. Chloe just gives the money to Frank, and then it's over. So like that didn't seem to impact anything, even though it was a big choice. Like the screen goes black and you have to choose. So that was a little strange. I would have said that should have been more impactful, I guess. Like if the money was stolen, the principal should have did an announcement being like, excuse me, we don't have money anymore, so someone broke in and stole it. There should have been this whole investigation thing, which I don't think was a thing. So yeah, realistically that wouldn't be how that works. I don't really have much to say about what could be. It's not perfect or anything, but I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, there's individual things, like very small, minute things that I would say can be improved. Like maybe using less copyrighted music, I would say that. As a YouTuber, that's my personal opinion, but I mean, less copyrighted music would have helped. Yeah, there's not much to say, honestly, because like I said, I'd have to break down each episode, and we're not doing that for the sake of this, because we're going over the entire game, not just specific episodes. But one thing I forgot to say for the well done section is they give you the first chapter for free. So the entire first episode is free, so you can see if you like it or not. If you don't, then don't get the rest. If you do, then you might be incentivized to grab the rest. And if I recall, they weren't that expensive. They were like, I want to say, if the bundle was, I think, 20, and each episode was like 5. So, no, that can't be right. Either way, you save like each episode was 5. I'm pretty sure that was correct. Maybe it was 30 was the total or something. I can't remember honestly, but basically it was more whatever the option was. It was more expensive to get all the episodes separately than it was to get the bundle. I had obviously gotten the bundle because it saved me money. But in terms of like the actual episodes, they did take a while to come out. I do remember that, but I mean, what I probably would have done, like, get the first episode out as fast as you can, obviously. But what I would have done is like work on more first, and then release chapter 2, then maybe a month later chapter whatever. But I think it was like 3 or 4 months in between each episode. So like people sometimes lost interest with it because it's like, oh, it took a while.
It was kind of like Deltarune, where the chapters were coming out like a lot separate.
I mean, but that's excusable because there's like 5 people working on that. Square Enix is a giant company.
So like, yeah, that's acceptable.
Now I'm aware that there's people working on Kingdom Hearts and these other projects, but you're a big company, meaning you have teams dedicated to that. So I would have said when it initially came out, and I think Chapter 2 had this. Chapter 3, I don't think they did. I think Chapter 3 came out as a full game. But with Life is Strange 1 and 2, I remember them coming out in separate episodes. So I get it, but I also don't because that seems like I would lose interest, right? But luckily for us, Life is Strange 1 was already out, so I just bought the bundle. Life is Strange 2 was already out, so we just bought the game. And then they finally stopped doing that with Life is Strange 3. So, yeah. So I would have improved that in terms of like stop making them come out like 5 months apart because like I would lose interest. With Deltarune, first of all, I don't lose interest because it's Deltarune, and second of all, it's very excusable because there's like 5 people working on it.
Yeah, it's a very small team, and they do a great job.
Yeah, that's why, and Deltarune's so memorable that I'm not gonna lose interest.
Yeah,
so.
It's worth the wait.
But anyway, moving on to any problems or glitches. There's definitely a few glitches we encountered. There's glitches where the text doesn't display correctly, or like not only does not display correctly, but it also doesn't happen when they're saying it. So sometimes it's delayed, or sometimes it's too fast.
Yeah, it's not lined up.
There's a couple times where we were talking with someone, and like an NPC would walk in front of us, even though there's supposed to be a barrier between us. Because I know that's how the game works. Because if someone walks directly into you, they get kind of moved around, and they can't go through you. But there's sometimes where they just did go through you, so that was interesting. There's a couple bugs where you were in it was a dialogue, but it wasn't. You could still move around. It was like one of those things that you were talking, and sometimes Max would just get cut off. It's because like someone else was talking to her. I'm like, excuse me, I was talking to this. So I count that as a bug because I don't think that's meant to happen. I think Max is supposed to continue her sentence and then get pulled into the next conversation. So yeah, a lot of dialogue related bugs. That's what I'd say. Visual bugs, no, I don't think there was any, as far as I'm aware. But in terms of like dialogue, there was a lot of dialogue bugs, if I recall. So yeah, but other than that, not too many. So we're gonna move on to controls. So I believe if you're on a controller anyway, I think it is on PC, but I would assume that's just WSD, shift and click and stuff. But on controller, I'm pretty sure you use almost every button because every button is tied to a decision. So let's take PS4 for example. You have X, square, circle, and triangle. They're all tied to a separate action in terms of the dialogue trees. And then you have walking around with the L with the stick. And then I believe you have sprint. She can sprint, so whatever button is tied to sprint. And then using your powers, you have to use the L buttons. You can also use the R button, I think, to speed up. So really every button is demonstrated there. But I don't remember them ever teaching the controls, but they taught you how to do the time control. But you'll learn the controls pretty quickly. It's not gonna be hard to learn the controls at all. So moving on to graphics. For its time period, it was actually pretty awesome. I don't honestly remember the exact year it came out, but for its time period, I know it was pretty darn good. Yeah, it looked beautiful. Like I think it's PewDiePie who made the thumbnail of his first one, where it's like the sunset in the background. It looked really pretty. So yeah, I would say that's really. I would say the graphics are pretty stellar for when it came out. But not much to say on that though. So moving on to music/sound. And the music I said earlier, which is why I said it is because it kind of drives the game a lot. It's not carrying the game or anything, but it's definitely driving the motions of it. Because if they didn't have the good amount of good music that they did, you probably wouldn't have been as attached to the story as you would have been. Because like I said, during the super sad parts, during the super intense parts, they play respective music for those. And like I said, they may be copyrighted, but it's still very good music. So, and they help you build the scene, they help you get immersed in it, and actually care about what's going on and stuff like that. Because when a game has bad music, you're just like, well, this sounds stupid, and you kind of get annoyed of it almost. So
it ruins the immersion.
It ruins the immersion. You get sick of it after a while. Like there's games I played where I started to get sick of it. Like this is a bad example, but Geometry Dash's practice music, for example. I got so sick of that music that so when 2.2 came out, I was glad you can change it. But in Life is Strange's case, they played the menu theme like a couple times, but other than that, they were all different songs, so you never really got sick of anything. And the music that they did was good anyway, so you really couldn't get sick of it. So yeah, the music was really well done. The sound effects, I would say they were sort of minimal. There's some sound effects, but not really a lot. So yeah, but yeah, the music is what was good anyway. So, but moving on to story and characters. Now, the story, to break it down, is essentially you're this person named Max. She goes to the bathroom because she needs to, I guess, and then she sees someone get shot, which is her childhood friend. She doesn't know that at the time, but she learns that later. She uses her rewind powers that she didn't know she had and reverses back to when she's in the lecture, back in her classroom. And that's when you sort of go on this journey of Max learning her powers. The person that got shot was named Chloe. She's kind of like this classic goth punk that doesn't like school, doesn't like anybody really, and she kind of goes on this journey with Max, tries to use her powers like effectively but also not effectively, because he's trying to teach her to use the powers, but they do that in very dangerous ways, such as shooting a car, and which ends up shooting her, which obviously I have to rewind because she can't die. Playing in the railroad tracks when a train's coming, very smart idea. And then like other stuff like that, other disasters like that. Chloe almost gets murdered at least 15 times in the story.
I think it was like apparent in like every chapter that Chloe would die.
However, that's intentional because basically the end part of the story, and obviously this is a review, so spoilers. I mean, if you haven't played the game, that's your fault. So at the end game, you have to decide, because so basically every time Max uses her powers, there's a giant tornado that's gonna come and destroy the town completely. And every time and obviously once you get to chapter 5, she's used her powers so many times that the tornado is like basically, I think F5 is the max we have in real life. That would be an F7 or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's ridiculously destructive, and it will destroy the town and kill everybody in it. And once you get to the lighthouse, which is like the safe place where the tornado won't reach, you have to make a final decision. Do you save the town or do you save Chloe, who you've saved pretty much up to that point every time? So yeah, the story building there is really powerful, because I think with these two specifically, they were lingering on that choice for a solid 10 minutes or so. I wanted, maybe not that long, but somewhere around there.
It was a good amount of minutes.
It was a good amount of time, because they had to decide, because the choice is, we've saved Chloe up like so many times at this point. We've saved her so long. She's our childhood friend. All this stuff like that.
But at the
same time, there's more people in Arcadia Bay. So you have to weigh out, is it worth it to save Chloe, who you've saved every time up to this point, or do you save Arcadia Bay because there's just more people in it?
Yeah.
And it's not like you don't know pretty much everybody in Arcadia Bay. You know Joyce, the the stepdad who redeems himself later, because he's kind of a douche in the beginning episodes, but he redeems himself later. Like stuff like that. So the story building is really why the game took off. It's really why the game became so popular as it did. The story specifically is why it did it. In terms of the characters, you have Max, who I've already talked about. She's kind of like this timid schoolgirl, classic, I guess. Chloe, I've already described as like a punk rock. She hates everything, right? Then you have Joyce, who's like the mother of Chloe, who's worried about her. She's like super nice and like that kind of thing. You have the stepdad, who, like I said, is initially really stupid and douchey, but as the chapters progress, he becomes more and more sympathetical, especially when he finds Max in the torture chamber that Jefferson put her in. Then you have Jefferson, the evil bad guy, who didn't seem that bad throughout the entire thing.
He just seemed like a cool art teacher.
Seemed like a cool teacher. Was secretly a murderer, so that's fun. So yeah, he's especially when you learn his dark side in chapter 5, but every other time he's like super nice and whatever. And then you have Nathan, who's like the drug addict almost basically, and he was the one getting manipulated by Jefferson essentially into doing the bidding. Nathan doesn't really redeem himself because he gets murdered by Jefferson. He doesn't really get a chance to redeem himself, but there's a phone call you hear when you leave Jefferson's murder dungeon that Nathan was trying to warn Max. She never got the message, but he was trying to warn her. So I guess that's kind of redemption, but he's dead, so you never get to hear anything about it.
Yeah. And Warren, I guess.
There's Warren, who's like the nerdy as frick dude. He's in the advanced science class. He has a crush on Max, because of course he does. And like just kind of like Zachary, super nerdy.
Yeah.
You got him.
Okay.
But yeah, and then there's a couple of side characters. So like I would say Frank is more of a side character. He is like the drug dealer basically. He owns an RV. He's a friend of Chloe's. Zach shot him in the series.
We did indeed do that.
Yes. You did indeed do that. Genocide Run, like I said. And like of course, there's more side characters after that. There's a lot of characters. Like there's the homeless lady. There's the trucker. There's the person on the train. So like there's a lot of people. But I've mentioned a lot of the main characters. Oh, you have Kate. I didn't forget Kate. She's like the super. She's actually depressed in the game. But she gets, if you actually save her, which these two didn't, you can actually you get to meet her in the hospital after that. And she gets treatment, and you actually get to see her a lot more. And she basically overcomes her depression at like around chapter 4 and 5. But if you want to see that in our episode, because
we didn't do that because we didn't remember a proper.
Nope. I thought it was the Matthew one. Either way, they didn't remember a correct thing.
We went with an official one, which she didn't believe. It was the one that I think her dad was talking about or whatever that she did believe in.
Yeah.
So we said the wrong one, and that prompted.
It was a 50-50 choice, and they lost it. So
we failed the coin flip.
Actually, I think it was 3 because it was 3, but the third one was like that's obviously wrong.
Yeah,
so.
if you get the third one wrong, that's like I'm pretty sure that's an instant like death.
No, what I'm saying is the third option out of the Proverbs or the Matthew was like, it wasn't even a quote or anything. It was just like, I forgot what it said, but it was like, well, that's obviously wrong. So you didn't. But so it was basically a 50-50, but you had 3 choices.
Yeah. But we failed.
And you failed. So
yeah.
But either way, so she's super nice, and but she's sad and stuff like that. But like I said, if you actually do the correct thing, she can overcome her depression, and like as the time progresses. So, but yeah, those are the main characters. And like I said, with the same thing with the story, all the characters are super well done. They all have different personalities, and all their personalities shine really well. So yeah, I would say that. Moving on to replayability. Now, this is I would say, I'm going to put this in the middle. I was about to say linear, because once you beat the chapters, you're done. There's no extra content. However, there is different dialogue trees. There's 2 endings to the game. And there's different ways the chapters could end. So I'm gonna put it in the middle because it's not unlimited like Minecraft, definitely not. But I can't call it limited because you technically could do multiple playthroughs and get more stuff you haven't seen. So
right, but like once you do everything,
then it's over. That's why I'm putting in the middle, because there's limited, which is you play on your first playthrough, it's over. Like Last of Us, for example, is a good example of that. Last of Us, you play the game, it's over after that. Minecraft is a good example of limited. Like, you play the game until the universe explodes and you're still going to encounter new stuff because it's all random seeds, all random luck, all that kind of stuff. But this game, it's like you can do multiple playthroughs, but once you're done, you're done. So just keep that in mind. But moving on to personal takes. So my personal take of this game is that we haven't beat 2 or anything, but so far 1 had a much better introduction to the characters, I think. 2 has a good introduction to some of the characters, not all of them though. Yeah, so I would say that 1 has a lot more world building, and you're kind of staying in the same place. The problem with 2 is you're moving everywhere, so you're not really getting to know the location you're even in.
Or like be like adjust to like some of the characters.
Yeah, adjust to the characters that you meet in the area.
Because like they're practically there for maybe like a chapter and then they're gone.
And they're gone, right? So like it's kind of that's why I liked 1 a bit more in terms of the world building and the beginning and stuff. And I would say that the like I said earlier, all about the music and stuff, that really drives it home as well. The story is really well done. But yeah, I've said most of my piece of my personal take. So Zach, we're gonna move on to you.
Okay, so this was a really good game. I do want to say it gets you really hooked into what's going on. Like, you feel for the characters, and I think they did a really good job with that, because that can be a really big driving force with like being able to connect and like feel like with the characters, like with Max, Chloe, all that, you just get like that feeling with this game and the choices that you make, and it's like, oh crap. And like the scene with Kate, like, yeah, we failed it, but that was such a big moment. I'll tell you what, that was something. Now, part of reviews is like also being like giving like helpful tips for like for people that want to buy this game. Well, one thing I will say, if you haven't seen the series, it's not for the faint of heart. I will say that it has very explicit themes, vulgar as crap, so it's definitely for like upper teens, I will say. So just keep that in mind if you want to buy this game. And that's about it.
Well, yeah, it's I mean, we've never really gone over the rating, but that's just because I feel like that's something they can do themselves. But yeah, basically, Life is Strange. It's essentially there's language is the main thing, I would say.
Yeah,
language
it's heavy. There's heavy vulgar. There's like swear words every 5 seconds. Well, not every 5
well,
seconds.
whenever you're near Chloe, there's swear words. Max doesn't
Yeah.
swear that often. So I guess you can say whatever you want about that.
Yeah, pretty much.
So basically, I would say that I didn't touch on the Kate scene too much, just because I said mostly what I needed to say. But also, like, if you don't fail or whatever, it gets you in the feels, because you're responsible for her at that point. It's all up to the player. There's no luck-based anything. There's no previous things you could have done better. It's all in that moment, and it makes it feel like you're actually there and in control of the situation. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So we'll move on to Isabel.
Yeah, when we played this game, it was just so interesting, and the story was so it was so fantastic that I was just not like expecting anything. Like, I did not expect Mug to be the villain. There was a lot of stuff that was totally unexpected that they get you hooked up into, that makes it extremely interesting, and you want to find out what happens next. And I think they've done a very good job at that, along with the characters. Even though we didn't get to save Kate, that moment was like, it was still very well done.
All right. So moving on to, is it worth it? And by the way, I just researched this while they were doing their first mistakes. I was dead wrong on the price. So the first chapter they give you is free. I wasn't wrong on that. I knew that for sure. But the individual chapters are actually $20 each. But there's a bundle for $30. So you save a lot of money by doing the bundle.
I'm gonna do the math real quick.
Yeah, but
you save $50 getting the pack.
Yeah,
that's
so
insane.
like that, they're really giving you the push. Hey, buy the bundle, you doofuses. But if you're crazy and you want to buy each individual one, then go right ahead. I know I did not pay for $20 here. I must have got I got the bundle. I think I got the bundle at a discount too, because I did not pay anywhere near 30 or something. I paid like 15. So either way, I would say I'm gonna judge it based on if you were to buy it though, because I might have got it at a random discount they were doing. So 30. I think it's actually 35 if I recall. So $35. That is not going to break the bank, honestly. Especially when a lot of games now are trying to do $70 and they're not even going to be worth it. Like get out of my face. You get Life is Strange is a big game. It's like 3 to 4 hours.
3 hours per chapter.
If you want to do a full 100% of each chapter, 4 hours, definitely 4 hours. Because we kind of speed through things a little bit because we know it's going to take a while. But if you want to look at everything, you want to interact with everything, 4 hours plus. So per chapter. So add that up in your head. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
so
that's about 20 hours for 4 for the entire game. So almost an entire day just to beat the game.
And that's one game. There's 4 of them technically.
Oh yeah.
Now before the storm, we're not gonna be on the channel because we never played it, but also I didn't personally like it. But even then, that one still has 4 chapters that are each the same length. So if you wanted to do a Life is Strange speed run, basically, you're spending at least 90 hours or something. It's absolutely crazy.
It is insane.
But in terms of the base game, it's about 3 to 4 hours per chapter. So yeah, you get a lot of content out of it for $35. If you spend the $20 for each episode, that's your fault. But if you spend the $35 or whatever it is for the bundle, then I would say absolutely it's worth it. Especially if you want to, if you haven't played the game, it's one of those games that was kind of revolutionary at its time. I wouldn't say it's held up as much as some other games that came out at the same time, but it definitely was revolutionary for the time because every YouTuber's playing it. That actually, Life is Strange, speaking of revolutionary, was sort of the game that gatewayed to long-form content. Because PewDiePie gave it, he started, I think, it was him and Jacksepticeye. Both of them kind of gave it out to the audience like, hey, do you want to see these in multiple parts, or do you want to see this as one full-length video? And pretty much everyone's like, no, I want to see this as one full-length video. And so that kind of progressed the idea that, hey, some videos are an hour long now, some videos are 2 hours, whatever. Because it used to be just like the max you wanted to go is around 20, because after 20 minutes your attention would drop or whatever. But people wanted the longer form videos. So that's how revolutionary this was. So I would say definitely it's worth it to me. And I think based on if you guys would want to play the game yourself, like obviously there's major spoilers that we've said. So, you know, I guess there's that. But also if you just want to experience the game and experience the characters in that, $35 is not bad at all. Especially when games are $70 that aren't worth it. So there's that. But lastly, that leaves us with the final rating. And I've thought about this, and I think I'm gonna give this game. I think I want to give it a strong 7. I like the game a lot. It's like it's just inches away from 8 because I don't think 8s and 9s are like truly revolutionary. Like they changed the gaming industry forever, right? And then 10's just even above that, which I've only given one game a 10.
10's just Undertale at this point.
Yeah, 10's just Undertale. There may be something later. We'll see. Still deciding on that one. But anyway, the point is the 10's like best of the best. It's perfect. I wouldn't have changed anything with it because there's a lot of reviewers that are like, oh, this is a 10 out of 10 when there's like bugs everywhere in this game. The story sucks. It's like, what?
IGN.
Are you stupid? Yeah, IGN. That's why we do these reviews, because I'm sick of seeing those reviews where they're like, oh, this game's a 10 out of 10.
And it's maybe like a 6 of 10.
And it's maybe like even objectively, like you have ignoring the like focusing on the facts and the story building, that kind of stuff, then it's still not a thing. Like obviously I'm gonna like a game that someone else is not gonna like, and vice versa. But in terms of like looking at the facts and the story building, then it's like this is not even close to a 10. Why'd you give it a 10?
Yeah, because you can't have bias and everything. Like if I really like a Nintendo game, and like I like Luigi's Mansion, right? And I say, oh yeah, it's 10 out of 10. And there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be like, no, it's not.
Yeah, there's gonna be people like clearly like, well, there's gonna be people like, well, I'm not gonna listen to his opinion on the game because he's biased.
Yeah, you need to get in with an unbiased opinion so they can get a true feeling for like how good is this game actually.
Yeah, and so based on what I've said, because it's not perfect at all, and I think there would be stuff. In the improved section, I talked for a little bit on what I would have done differently. I don't think I can give it an 8, but I'm gonna give it definitely a strong 7. It's like very close to an 8, just barely not there. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go there because there's the games I've rated at an 8 that I don't think is on par with this. So that's what I'm going to leave it at. So, but Zach.
Yeah.
And these guys don't have to agree. They've agreed mostly up to this point, but they don't have to. This is just like my rating is what's going on the video screen, but they can leave their own rating too.
And this might be the first time I disagree with you. I'm actually thinking that this is an 8. I'm dead serious. I think that this was a really good game. I think and like considering what else was an 8, like there are some 8s that I think that's lower, but there's also some 8s that I think was better than. I think this game was better than. Like I think we rated FNAF Five Nights at Wario's 3 and 8, and I think this game is better than that. So by that, and also just the fact that it's really freaking good, I'm gonna give this game an 8. It's a bit of a weaker 8, but it's definitely an 8 in my book, I think.
Okay, Isabel?
Yeah, I was also like thinking an 8, but I'm not gonna give it like a strong 8, but I think it 7, because for me, I'm not very like good at story, like making stories, and how well this game handled all of that stuff. I think it does deserve like a low 8, but I kind of feel uncomfortable giving it a 7.
Yeah, the reason I gave it a 7 is just because I think that there was room for improvement when it came to Chapter 3 was kind of the weak link, in my opinion. Like I said, I didn't want to get into specifics of the chapters because that would take this video would be 2 hours. But Chapter 3 specifically was just kind of like that was the one where you break into the school because Chloe wanted to. You start to learn about the dark room or whatever, which you don't even really get closure on. That's the one where you can steal the money or whatever. And I was just kind of I mean, Chapter 1 was good, Chapter 2 was pretty good, Chapter 3 was in my opinion. Chapter 4 is really when things started kicked off, and Chapter 5 was pure gold. So, I think, honestly, the thing that's only bringing it down is Chapter 3. The entirety of Chapter 3 was just kind of mediocre to me.
Yeah, Chapter 3 was pretty... It was pretty...
And because that's 4 hours of the game, I can't be like, well, that's super great, so let me just let me lump it into things that I've given an 8. Because 8, the things that I've rated an 8 are pretty good the entire way through. Whereas this was not. I didn't think Chapter 3 was that good. It wasn't bad, but I wouldn't say it's as good as the other ones, as the other chapters. So that's why I gave it a 7, purely because I think Chapter 3 is bringing it down. The copyrighted music, honestly, like they knew YouTubers were gonna play, and they still did copyrighted music. That's another thing about the company I didn't say a while ago is Square Enix is very prestigious about their music. They will strike you down if you monetize your videos with their music on. So that's why our videos weren't really monetized. But yeah, so I would say that kind of stuff is bringing me down to a 7. It's not, like I said, it's not a weak 7. I don't think it's on par with Security Breach. I think it's a little bit better than Security Breach, but it's still one of those things that it's in the 7 group, but it's high. It's like one of the highest 7s I've given so far.
Kind of like a 7.5. If we did points, it'd be like a 7.9. It's like I said, it's like just there. Oh yeah, because you said like down the cons. Yeah, 7.9.
But either way, so that's
8.2.
That's what we've got to say. So like I said, this wasn't gonna be near the 15 to 20 because like it's a huge game. So whenever we do Chapter 2 or Season 2 rather, it's gonna be somewhat similar because these are just such big games. The shorter the game, the less we need to talk about it. But in terms of this game, it's massive. So, yeah, that's gonna do it. If you haven't watched these reviews before, then we do a custom outro. We don't do the normal outro. So yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.